And I think that people, a very common perception of Stoicism, and perhaps this is true for some people, I mean, Cato seems the most kind of Spock-like in a lot of ways, is that you feel neither pain nor joy. You are just basically a cyborg. And the goal is to not experience emotions whatsoever.
Right.
And also, I think people perceive it as asceticism, or foregoing all of your worldly possessions. And of course, Seneca was very highly criticized and continues to be highly criticized as the opulent Stoic. Like, how can he talk about foregoing riches? And I'm kind of laying this one up because I've obviously read a lot about this, but I'd love for you to talk about how you would reconcile some of those things. Like, does Stoicism, is it compatible with material or financial success or being famous, or are they completely at odds with one another?
Sure. Well, look, I think since both of us are authors, we can very much relate to the problem that's happened with the Stoics over the last 2,000 years, which is it's a bunch of people psychoanalyzing people they've never met based on their work. And and over the generations, it builds on itself. And the problem is, what they're forgetting is that the Stoics it's a philosophy that's designed to solve certain problems, and specifically only those problems. So, Marcus Aurelius isn't writing notes to himself at night that says, like, hey, like, women are really pretty, don't forget, or like, hey, you should laugh and have a good time, or like, money is nice. Like, no one needs like a reminder of certain things, right? And specifically, since he was not writing a book for other people, he was writing a book for himself. I think you can safely assume that he's writing reminders to himself about the things that he's particularly bad at, right? And so it's a deliberately selected view of a person who's struggling with tough things in their life. He's not, again, trying to explain a systemic worldview that you should keep in mind. He's working through problems in his own personal way. Mm-hmm. And maybe if Seneca had different friends that were really somber and sad all the time, he would have written them different letters. Like Cicero was a Stoic or studied Stoicism, and there's more joy in his writings. Maybe just because it was a totally different situation. So what I want people to keep in mind is that Stoicism is not about being sad or not having emotions. It's about keeping an even keel and not getting upset or delusionally happy either. And so I actually think there's a core tenet of optimism in Stoicism. I called the book The Obstacle is the Way, and it's based on this exercise from Marcus Aurelius where he's saying, like, look, it doesn't matter if you're trying to do something and you get blocked. This is actually an opportunity to practice virtue. So basically what he's saying is like, hey, I know this thing that happened that you think is bad. It's actually good, and it's actually a chance for you to do good things. To me, that's cheerful and that's happy, and that's the kind of attitude of someone who never gets depressed because they always feel like they have a way out. And I think what the Stoics were saying is, like, if you go around thinking that the world is great and that it's always going to work out exactly how you plan and that people are always going to treat you well, like in one of the things, Marcus reminds himself that tomorrow when he wakes up, people are going to be rude, they're going to cheat, they're going to steal, they're going to argue with you, they're going to do all these things. He's doing that so he can go out and interact with them in a positive way rather than feeling let down and pissed off all the time.
Right.
So I think that's super important, and I think that's something that's totally been missed from Stoicism, and I think that's why you and I are attracted to it and find value from it in our lives. It's not like confirmation of our pessimism or cynicism, and on the contrary, I actually feel like it's intimately connected with being happy and fulfilled as a person. And that's why I don't think it was a contradiction at all that Seneca was successful and seemed to genuinely enjoy his life and was, had financial riches. I think Nassim Nicholas Taleb is another person. The point is, making money is usually a result of being successful or good at something. It can also be a result of luck or fortune. And having it doesn't say anything good about you, and it doesn't say anything bad about you either. And the only problem that really comes from wealth, well, there's a couple problems, but being financially successful and I'm not a millionaire, but I'm doing well. There's temptation to spend money on negative things, let's say. But the real problem is thinking that you need this money to survive. And so it's funny, like Seneca has this reputation for being opulent, but in Letters to a Stoic, he talks about actually practicing poverty, like one day a month, pretending that all his money was stolen or lost and that he's walking the streets as a homeless person. He's doing that so he can enjoy his wealth while he has it, but never feel like it's integral to his survival or existence as a person either.